evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I am Reverend Webbo Herbert, and as per usual we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to our Let's Talk program in Pure Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized. And when getting on the show, you take as little time as possible, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio, on our Facebook page, Vaughan Radio. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. This is the first edition for the year 2026. And why don't I wish you a happy new year? And a healthy one too. And I normally give these greetings to all of my friends and family, right? I would say, because I know them well, I wish you health and strength, because someone like you, once you have health and strength, and I know you're not lazy, you'll make it. Health and strength. Tonight, the Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my panelists around the table. And I want to, from the outset, Webbo, thank you for the invitation tonight. I want to say good evening to your hard-working staff here at Vaughan Radio. I want to join with you, Webbo, to certainly offer the listening public a very happy and healthy and prosperous 2026. And I hope that our Creator God would certainly furnish them with abundant blessing. Webbo, I want to say good night to all those who are listening to this first edition of the Let's Talk show. Persons who are here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, certainly those who are throughout the Caribbean basin. As far up as I am getting the sense now that the way things are going, that Florida might soon become a part of the Caribbean. But I want to say as far as Florida, all the way down to our friends in Guyana. Up north, of course, the United States, Canada, and over the pond to Europe, and our students who are over there in Taiwan. I want to shout them out. I want to say to them, it is certainly such a delight to join them again at the start of this new year. Well, I want to take this opportunity to offer all those persons who are celebrating, whether it's a birthday or a wedding anniversary or some accomplishment in their life. I hope that they are having a wonderful, wonderful evening tonight. I want to say to all those persons who are in our various hospitals here in St. Kitts and Nevis, I hope that soon they will be up and about, certainly with the assistance of our medical professionals and of course with some divine intervention. I also want to say, Webbo, to those who are in the recovery column, and I want to, and I hope she don't get too angry at me, I want to also say to my dear wife, who, you know, is recovering from a brief illness, it's coming along very nicely. Good evening, honey. So nice to see you up and about in the last few days. Webbo, I want to take this opportunity to offer my very deep condolences to all those families who are in mourning tonight. I want to start with, of course, the family of Phyllis Grant there in the Quaddock Road area. Phyllis would have had a little ailment for a while and would have left us recently. I want to say to the family how sad we all are, of course, at the loss of Phyllis. I want to say to the family of Jahi Henry, a young man who lost his life. I would say in a ocean accident, actually. Full of life, and to his children and to his girlfriend, it was such a sad revelation that he would have passed. Webbo, to the family of the multi-talented Sterling Marshall, I believe that the whole nation are still in shock and still in mourning of the sudden passing of one whom we all knew and loved and very fond of, someone who would have bring much joy and happiness to, I would even say, the entire federation and of course further afield. So to his dear family, to his son, and to his entire family, of course, we mourn with you and we share in your loss. Webbo, to the family of Corporal Royston Isaac, a policeman who would have served the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis for, I believe, perhaps over 2 decades in the police force, and he would have passed away again suddenly, and I certainly want to take this opportunity to offer my very deepest condolences to his family. To the Pinney family, Webbo, there in Cox Village, Mr. Carlton Pinney, one of the pillars, I would say, in the Cox community and in the St. John's area, who would have been laid to rest. I believe it was on Saturday. I want to take this opportunity to offer my very deepest condolences to all of those family, and Webbo, to all those who are mourning. Perhaps I didn't capture all of them, but I just wanted to use this rostrum to offer my very deepest condolences. It's the start of a new year, and some families are starting off the new year with a bit of sadness, but I want to say to them that be strong, keep their faith, and hold on to the memories of those who would have gone on. And I want to encourage them with the very fond memories of their loved ones. So Webbo, good evening. Thank you for the invitation, and I am indeed delighted to be here tonight.
Conrad Naya Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your hard-working staff here at the Powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, and to my colleagues around the table, pleasant good evening. And I will join with those who have gone before me and wished everyone a happy and prosperous 2026. I suppose I will say everything good for 2026. Let us face this year with an attitude to be hardworking and to be optimistic in whatever we're doing, breaking down barriers and going beyond even your own expectation. Webbo, I'm happy to be here as usual, taking part in the conversations that affects us, the region, and sometimes on a global level. I want to say good evening to my friends in the international circle, as usual, my brethren in Connecticut, Florida, and Toronto, to my daughter Makeda. A special good evening in Toronto, and I would invite everyone to be a part of this very first edition of this wonderful program. And remember that this program it's yours as well. It just does not exist without the participation of the public, and we sometimes seek to speak on your behalf. We don't always get it right, and sometimes we try to clarify, and we sometimes even need clarification ourselves. Webbo, we do not hold the monopoly on ideas or intelligence, and of course we're here to be inspired by you, the callers, the members of the public. Webbo, I'm happy to be here. It's been another beautiful day here in Nevis. The regular ups and downs, but at the end of the day, I think it's the place that I'd rather be, and I hope we as Nevisians, home and abroad, feel the same. I am inviting everyone from England and America and Canada to come back home ASAP, and let's get going and move this country forward. And the idea of always looking abroad for help from some other people from Europe, and sometimes, most times, of a different race, is getting tiresome. And I think we can do it on our own. We can do it by ourselves. I think we have been gracing the corridors of universities all over the world. We have good engineers, and I sometimes don't know why we don't employ them in experimental purposes and do things instead of actually waiting and sometimes anticipating that the better would come from elsewhere. I think we are full of potential here on this little island. Of course, we got to plan things, but sometimes I like to see some kind of action which is almost that attitude that really get things started, because every journey begins with a very small step. It's not always you can see right around the corner and the corners, but I think sometimes we have to be in that kind of mood to make a start. I encourage that type of mentality, not just amongst the people, but amongst the leaders of our country, and to be focused. Webbo, once again, I say thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to a healthy discussion this evening, Webbo. Thank you.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and I want to thank you for the invitation. I want to say Happy New Year to you and your staff. Also want to say Happy New Year to my fellow panelists here in the studio. And of course, Happy New Year to all those who are listening and viewing near and far. Now, Webbo, I want to say special good evening to all those who are celebrating, whether it's a birthday or anniversary. We wish you a happy birthday, happy anniversary. Hope that your day was well spent and your night would be even better. Webbo, I also want to say a special good evening to those who are sick, those who are shut in, those who are hospitalized. I bid you a speedy recovery. I hope that if you're in the hospital, you'll be able to be back with your family at home, enjoying the comfort of your home. So those who are hearing me and are sick, speedy recovery. We know that the flu is going around. A number of persons, are down still with the flu, and we wish them, a speedy recovery, as I would have said. Webbo, as the year started, we were struck heavily, especially in the Zion area, with some deaths. And I want to say a special good evening to all those who are mourning, and may God be a pillar of strength, your rock in this time of difficulty, this time of need. Webbo, I also want to echo the sentiments as Mr. Brand, Corporal Ralston Isaac. I knew him for a number of years now. We met him first in St. Kitts, and then he worked for a number of years at the Newcastle police station. And of course, back in the day when American Airlines used to be here, we had a police officer on duty at the airport daily, and so I would have come into contact with him regularly, and I dare say we became friends thereafter. So to his family, we say hold on to the Lord. With the DJ Marshall, someone who we all knew from the Zion area, multi-talented, as one of my fellow panelists would have said, a man who was very confident, full of confidence, full of life, full of glow, and there's so many words, maybe words itself can't really fully describe Sterling DJ Marshall. When I was growing up, I knew him back then as Sharp, and everything about him was sharp. The way he spoke, the way he dressed, the way he walked, everything was just sharp. And so I believe that the name, had suited him. And I want to say to his sister, Dawn, his children, especially Shanga, hold strong. God would see you through. And, if you have to fall on your knees and pray, well, you do that. We also had the passing of a popular bus driver, Jabas, who passed away just recently. To his family and friends, I say, may the Lord continue to look over you and be a tower of strength to you. I want to say a special good evening to my co-worker Kurt Grant. His mother passed just recently, Miss Phyllis Grant. I want to say, Kurt, we have you at our workplace. We want you to continue to be strong, and you and your family, and God knows best. To Marva, Pinney, and the rest of the family, I say sympathy greetings to you for the passing of your dad, Carlton Pinney, and God would see you through. And Webbo, this one touches me, really, really home. Jai Henry, he would have passed away. The date eludes me right now, but it was the 2nd, yes, I think it might have been the 2nd of January at Herbert's Beach. While swimming, he encountered some difficulties and, was unable. I knew him very well. He's a family member, I would say. He lived with my sister for a number of years. And that really, really touched me, Webbo. And, I want to say to the family, his mom and the entire family, to hold strong, and God would see you through. Webbo, I want to encourage those who are listening and viewing, as per usual, Webbo, that this is a call-in program. We encourage you to call in and to interact with us. If you have a question, you may have something that we can learn from you, or you can learn from us. So we're asking you kindly to participate by calling the numbers that was listed previously, earlier in the program, and let it be an interactive program. Of course, I'm looking forward for a fruitful discussion. So many things that is, that could be laid on the table, Webbo. And again, thank you for your invitation, Webbo.
I got something I want to do, and I'm going to do it at the top. But to Naya and Bran, in particular. But before I say that, let me just once again say how much we appreciate the contribution of everybody. And the reason why I don't say it all the time is because I don't look at it as you doing us anything. It's a team. And every now and then, any given time, somebody captain the team, as we say, and we still win, right? So anybody can, captain this match and so on. So that's how the appreciation is. I like to also keep encouraging people to debate and respect each other. Now, many years ago, I used to, every now and then, I run a campaign. I will say, well, I'm doing this campaign. Right now I'm doing a campaign, this one-man campaign, and a lot of folks are joining me. No speeding on the road. We got this song by Cairo. And even strangers, I was around by the taxi fellas. Every now and then I would check in with them, see what's happening. And some folks came off the pier. And they were from St. Kitts, and they heard us talking and said, "Oh, I in the campaign with you too." And one St. Kitts lady started to cuss. They said they don't know why they try out the guy out the finals. But he doesn't have to worry, When you're good, them things normally happen to you. So I have this campaign that folks are joining. Please, no speeding on the road. Right? And so I would encourage folks to make their point. But it's not necessary to cuss people. And years ago, we used to do this campaign. And I would say, don't teach your children to hate. And a certain set of people encourage people as a consequence of that to cuss me. And now, when the whole thing now has come around full circle, I hear all and sundry making big speech, talking about how the country place is so divided because people to cussing one another and so on and so forth, right? You have to be in a mode where you can see it even when it is not directly affecting you, right? You can make the point. And I've said it, and people who know me well know that I mean it, right? Make your point against the point that the person make. And from day one I said, with my guests and the people who are contributing, nobody is going to cuss them. You argue with the point that they're making, but you don't cuss people. You don't know what people can take. And more importantly, there's a lot of forums and platforms where people can do what they want, if they want, when they want. You know what I mean? Coming in Gaspring. So I just wanted to make the point. So let's always have a civil debate, and also we don't want to end up, as I say, under the clock, because that's not the purpose why we're here. We're trying to have a good discussion. Now, before we came on the air, I was telling Fifield that earlier today I was looking at a discussion on the television, and one very experienced commentator said, the stage we are in with the world, he doesn't think that we can look to the political leaders, etc., to solve it. To bring the democracy back, it needs one person at a time, meaning each one of us. Because the persons who are in there now want to remain there, so they're going to do what they want to stay there. And those who are out want to get there, so they don't want to say anything which might hurt the chances. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So I wanted to say that. Number two, now, Fifield, if you fellas don't know, I found out that he does with his group barbecue every Friday afternoon at the bottom of Zion Road, right? So I decided to check it out. I was passing, and it's good. So any given Friday afternoon, anybody wants to take a drive, have a little chat with him, he and his group, and buy one of those chicken legs or fish. And then, what I also did, I drank it with something I got for my Christmas, which is a bottle of sorrel from Dean. You all know Dean, Dora Dean?
Yes.
Right there. That was a good dinner. So anybody wondering what to have for dinner, well, you don't try that. That's number two. Number three, good evening and a happy new year to the great Ted Hobson. Every time almost everything I do, if I'm not thinking about Edric and Ted, it's not me. So Ted, we got you. We wish you many, many more wonderful years. And I know always when you can, you're tuned in. So Ted, all the best and a happy new year. And finally, I want to play this up front. I know that everybody has something they want to put on the table, but this is a suggestion that I have that we can start thinking tonight and in the days and weeks and months ahead. So I want you to listen carefully, and so that it can influence our thinking.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny.
Always satisfying.
Vaughn Radio.
The Powerhouse.
So, gentlemen, I think for those of you listening who don't know, that was the late Martin Luther King Jr. A panel I know would have known that. And I deliberately chose that. There are a host of those that you can, folks can listen to. You can Google it. There's a lot of speeches, and you can, those who are not old enough can then experience and understand that era. And those of us who are older can go back in time. And that is how the basis on which the struggle in America and then across the world was, with leaders like these. And I was mentioning that you understand the philosophy and who and what makes a nation and the people. And that is why I wanted us to listen to that and stuff like that as we debate and frame our own views and who we are as a people with that in mind. So if you all would like to comment now, or if you have other stuff you'd like to get through, and so go ahead.
Webbo, before I comment on the Martin Luther King, I want to add additional condolences to the Truss and Mills family, who would have laid Nurse Sylvia Ward to rest on the, I believe it was on the 5th of January. And from all reports, this was a nurse, Webbo, who almost fall in the mode of Mother Teresa kind of attitude. So I want to add that in. Of course, a close relative as well of our Deputy Governor General, the entire family, certainly want to add that in. Well, I believe that it was on the 2nd of November, around 1983, when the then President Ronald Reagan would have signed the Martin Luther King bill and created the third Monday in January as a holiday, signaling the contribution of Martin Luther King. It was interesting, Webbo, that you played that particular speech, especially with what is going on right now in the United States of America. It's almost as if what we are seeing now on the TV, on the screen, in colored. The television are now in HD and fully colored. Martin Luther King and his band of brothers and sisters was experiencing that in the 60s in black and white. It is almost as if what we are seeing now, they would have turned a page and turned the TV from black and white to colored. That particular speech where we spoke about this blank check, and it was interesting in the way in which that he would have put over that narrative. It meant, Webbo, that for black and brown citizens of America, I think that he was basically questioning, actually, are they equal? And he was making the point that they are just as equal, and what is in it for quote unquote white America is also available for black America. So the check ought not to be a blank check. The check ought to be redeemable, so to speak, when it comes to their citizenship and their equal rights in the United States. It is something, Webbo, that we are seeing in living color all over again, and it is a time, I feel, that is now perhaps tearing apart, so to speak, families, disrupting businesses. We are seeing children who are afraid to go to school, and it is just creating, Webbo, this high level of uneasiness all over again in the United States. Martin Luther King in the 60s, you're now seeing it in 2026. And it's unfortunate because I feel that the United States was created, Webbo, in my mind, on the backs of immigrants. Persons who would have traveled from all the four corners of the world. And we also, right here in Nevis, would have contributed to the creation of the United States of America with one of our very own sons, Alexander Hamilton. So the state, the creation of the United States of America were from persons from all walks of life, from all sphere, from all corners of this globe. And it seems now that there is a new thinking and a new philosophy and a new paradigm shift where the foundation on which the United States were created, that foundation is now being eroded. That foundation appears to now be not the kind of foundation that the present leadership is willing to accept.
Yeah, but I think it was an appropriate speech. It's an appropriate excerpt of a speech that you played. It was a speech made in America, but not necessarily to just Americans. You know, as I listen to the speech, I'm all totally moved on the inside, because as I look around, whereas he said that the Negroes are living on an island by themselves in poverty. He make reference to the ocean that surrounds them, which is full of wealth and opportunities. He makes reference to use the concept of a blank check, and said that we refuse to believe that there is nothing in the account. These are my words, though. For the Negroes, he believed, we must believe that there are opportunities there for us as well, and so we are going back to the bank. And I think the gathering which he made that speech to back then was inclined to believe that, of course, the system has been totally unfair. He said that we should, these are my words, shelter under the roof of democracy. And I see what he is saying spread very far, because as we see the Caribbean today, we are weak. Yes, there are people who think they're rich, but collectively, this is a weak region. Relatively to our, we once used to say our friends, our sister, our bigger brother, America. Because all the talk we have down here, if America say that they're going to annex the Caribbean, and they're serious about it, there's nothing we can do about it. That speech to resonate to conditions on various islands, the impoverishedness. I was in Jamaica the other day, the impoverishedness I saw. The impoverished minds, even, that govern these islands, is a problem. We look at our little island here in Nevis. How transparency at sometimes seems to be absent. The concerns of the people of Nevis, as we speak, as it relates to the SSZ, seems to me is a part and parcel of this speech, as we bear ourselves in need for help and assistance. As we deal with a situation where transparency seems to be absent in many ways as it relates to that particular situation. I think such speeches should be played more often, and that would, of course, I suppose, lift the integrity of Caribbean people, of Caribbean leaders, and of course bring to bear on their mind that there's nowhere to go. We got to deal with it right here. We got to lift our weight. We got to carry our wounded. And we got to succeed. I think the idea of looking to the north for our deliverance, or looking to people from the north, is something should be a thing of the past, because there is no real love and care for the people. It's all about money. It's all about their convenience. It's all about their domination. It makes me feel like these land being captured land, they would come back for them in due time. And we won't be able to do anything about it. And so that speech to me speaks to the everyday people. But it should mostly resonate with the leaders of the Caribbean, leaders of these islands where the masses were ex-slaves. We are all ex-slaves. And so the freedom that Martin Luther King is talking about, to a great extent, we are still searching and wanting for that freedom here in the Caribbean. We are impoverished. As he says, we are on an island of impoverishedness. And I'm talking about the whole Caribbean. Doesn't matter how some of them go around and make you feel like they're this and they're that. When we all look at ourselves collectively, we got to sell our passports. We have sold so much that we have sold more than the population of the island. And what hangs over us? A great threat of these people coming home, coming to our island and say that they are citizens also. I think it needs a rude awakening, and I suppose an awakening that we got to be prepared to carry ourselves. We got to be prepared to lift up the wounded. We got to be prepared to fight and run away, because he that fight and run away live to fight another day. What the conversation was prior to the Christmas and what is going on here in Nevis and what has been made headline news in various newspapers across the world is of deep concern to what may be happening in a wider sense. And I think it all starts by our economic situation, where we decide to sell our passports for revenue and basically give away our island. I think it is not the time when people should be wary, and don't make them feel like, as Martin Luther King said, the Negro is about to let down the task ahead. We got to return to it, and we got to make sure that the conversation that we had prior to Christmas, the SSC legislation, the libertarian city that is proposed to be launched on island, be brought back under the microscope, because freedom can be taken away in many different ways. We are still not free. We are economically in chains. And so when I listen to that speech, it brings too much to my mind to say in this limited time. And I do hope that we all as people, we all as leaders can draw great inspiration from such speech, because when we speak to time in a historical context, it sometimes stretches over generations and sometimes over hundreds of years. Martin Luther said about 5 scores ago, which is 100 years, a score is 20 years, certain document was signed, but 100 years after. And I think those speeches were made in the 1960s. So it looks to me like now 150 years, almost 200 years after, we are still not free. Our leaders still have to sell us cheaply, have to market us as people in desperation, in need. And therefore, we must not see that as the only option. We got to create, we got to be creative in our thinking. We got to be leaders instead of be prepared to be led.
Yes, Webbo, I would like to chime in at this point in time. Webbo, I listened the clip that you played, and I think that it is as relevant now as it was then. I think that Martin Luther King was a leader of leaders, a visionary leader, one who spoke from the heart, and not for himself but for his people. Now, if we were to compare then and now, he spoke to things that are relative to today in terms of segregation. I don't think that we are as united as we could be. When we look at what's going on in the United States in terms of ICE, we know a few weeks ago one of the ICE agents shot a white person, and that headlined the news for a while, and many persons speculated and said it was a black person who got shot. It might not have reached in the news the way that it reached the news. And this is what he said in his speech too. He had white persons there who basically saw the light, and if more of us could see the light and come together and unite, I think that things would be more, or the path for us would be, as a people, would be easier. He spoke to basically persons who are exiled in their old land. As I said, in terms of ICE, a number of persons would have been held who are U.S. citizens, who claim to be U.S. citizens. So this speech, I think, could be deemed as one as visionary also. He also spoke to the fierce urgency of now. From the little that I know, things that are going on now in terms of the deportee, and it appears as if that it was just thrust upon us. Those are things that would have taken care in a diplomatic room, and those are things that would have been discussed maybe months, if not years, prior. So the governments of these islands now that would be affected would have had an idea and would have been in a better position, I dare say, to get themselves ready for these quote-unquote the deportees. When we look at certain things, and we listen to the news, some of these things in terms of that would affect the embassies around the world, they didn't even had an idea at that particular point in time of what's happening officially. So the urgency is fierce, as he said, now. So we have to be able to think on our feet, and not just for ourselves, for our island, for our country, what the negative impact, if there would be a negative impact, if there would be a positive impact, where the good and the bad, so to speak, and how we can balance it. And I think that Martin Luther King, I don't know if he yet visualized these things, or we can, look or listen to his speeches, and this particular one might have very well be a warning to us. Sometimes we hear things, we listen things, and we interpret things differently. And after the fact, sometimes is when we really grasp and understand exactly what is going on. But at last, there's hope. He spoke to the sunlit path, of justice. He spoke to opportunities. So all is not lost. And I believe that if we could bond together, when I say we, I mean we the people of the Caribbean, the people of the world, the people of the United States of America, if we can bond together, understand what we want, I believe that things could be better. And as you said earlier on, Webbo, sometimes we look towards the politicians to take us out of quote-unquote local parlance squall, but sometimes it's really us who have to push forward, to propel ourselves in a way so that those who are in position could understand where we are coming from and exactly what we are saying and we want for ourselves as a people. Webbo. So yeah, Webbo, I think that I don't want to go over all of the points that my fellow panelists would have gone or spoke to, but I think that it was a beautiful speech then, and it is still a beautiful speech now.
About if I may also chime in, I concur that was a speech in my mind where Martin Luther King sought to remind quote-unquote white America of the promise, so to speak, that all men were created equally when the United States signed their Declaration of Independence. And basically reminding them of their self-worth and their equity status, so to speak, when that now great and mighty country declared their independence. But I want to pivot a bit and touch on something that Naya highlighted, and I actually wrote it down. He said that the transparency seemed to be absent as it relates to the SSG, and I am a little bit taken aback, because I think I have been around for a little while, perhaps a little less than you, Naya, and I can't recall ever seeing any topic, maybe few, that have had that have captured the pundits, that have been written about, that have been spoken about, where experts and professionals from all over the place, and talk shows, radio shows, you name it, on this particular matter. I however, want to disagree with you about this transparency. Seems to have been absent, and I'll provide for you, Naya, the evidence as to why I say I would differ from you. This government would have met with the church, explaining, highlighting, giving information. We would have met with our 6 farmers. We would have met with our teachers. We would have met with the chamber. We would have met with the heavy equipment operators. We met with the members of the opposition. Met with the general public. And I believe you would have participated as well, Naya. Not participated, but be present at that particular engagement. The Premier, who is the head of government, holds a press conference every month. And he been asked, and I believe he would have answered. He sits in this tree every single Wednesday once he's on the island. And this matter have been raised with him time and time again. I highlighted all of those, Naya, to make the point that the matter of transparency is one that, for one reason or the other, don't hold water. Because we have sought to provide as much information that we have, that we can share with the public, that has been, you know, and I think that I go back to the independence of St. Kitts and Nevis, 1983. Yes, it is true that at that time we did not have the social media platforms and those kind of things and so on. We did not have a lot of the various radio stations. I believe we may have just have one radio station that I said at the time.
Radio Lighthouse.
Radio Lighthouse. And so perhaps maybe the comparison may not be a balanced comparison, but even when we went into independence in 1983, there was, in my humble recollection, nothing close to this kind of engagement with the public. And we are talking about moving 2 islands into independence, and the public were not necessarily as engaged and as informed and as have the kind of access to information and so on. Albeit, like I said, we are in a totally different era in terms of access to information and that kind of thing. The platforms are totally different. So, like I said, the comparison may not necessarily be as balanced, but I think that based on the change, so to speak, of becoming an independent nation, perhaps as much was not disseminated to the public as what is now, and the engagement, so to speak, were not as much. So I make that argument now that the transparency, if you are of the view that perhaps additional information is required, and that's a different argument. But in terms of transparency, I think that we have sought to provide, we have sought to engage, we have sought to share the necessary information what we have. The law itself, the SSD bill itself is one that have been dissected, the length and breadth of this federation regionally and even internationally. And I think that is good because it allows people to get a feel as to what the document contains. So the argument of transparency, the evidence does not bear that out now.
You know, I said transparency because, and you have agreed, and we all must admit that this thing has been getting and continue to get a lot of publicity all over the world, and you say even more than the island becoming an independent country, the islands becoming an independent country. Back in 1983, the reason is why. And let me go back a little bit. Why I speak to transparency? Because we know not anything of what is debated and what is talked about prior to the legislation. We know not anything about what is talked about and what is debating about and what is highlighted all over the globe before the legislation was passed. And I think opportunities was provided for, because you make mention of the monthly news conference by the Premier and the weekly show by the Premier, but yet the public knew nothing about anything that we are talking about today before the legislation was passed. There's a lot of questions that surrounds the legislation, and in the town hall meeting, I think a question was asked to the legal advisor of the NIA, and she sharply said, this legislation originated on a federal level. It started in Think It's originated on a federal level. But what, to me, brings the question of transparency is, well, if it's originated on a federal level, why is it even before the ink dry on the paper in Think It's, there was a proposal in Nevis for what is today known as Destiny? It's almost happened immediately before the ink dry on the legislative paper, before the ink dry on the law that was passed, the legislation. There was this proposal for, and the Premier has been asked about it prior to that, but for whatever reason the public remained, of course, not informed, not even a hint as to what may be happening. I mean, on one of the Premier talk show, he make reference to that there was another proposal. Nothing certain, but there was another, and he make reference to the nature of the proposal and so forth. And it's simply that, it's exactly that what was asked of the Premier. He was able to give a slight insight of the nature of the proposal with that second proposal that he said reaches his desk, which was nothing really too serious in a sense. And information was given, which to me was satisfactory. But on this particular one, to me, the island remained blindfolded. And it seems to me like all evidence have pointed to the fact that there was knowledge sufficient to be communicated. Maybe not sufficient to be confirmed, but something should have been said. And this is why this thing has really taken off the way it's taken off. It's been the biggest chatter about Nevis so far. It's been said that something that basically was, I describe it as a distant thunder, only in theory, has now seen the light of reality on a little island called Nevis, a libertarian city. And all the writings I've read have in particular made reference to that part of the legislation that speak to dispute resolution. That part of the legislation that speaks to dispute resolution. The CEO of the company have come forward and said, words to the effect that our courts are not court system. I'm not talking, obviously, I'm the magistrate court or whatever court. It's not is not efficient. But what really struck me in all these readings that I've read, that's been happening in Europe, England, and everywhere, particular reference have been made to that part of the legislation that speaks to dispute resolution. Of course, it's no doubt at all, from what I've been reading in the international circles, that this is the first libertarian city in the world. And it's become closer to fruition than ever before because the government has already passed legislation to facilitate it. Many individuals across the world are asking me, Naya, what is going on? One of them tell me, Naya, you need to get back into politics. What is happening? I am not sure if that's the light we want to be seen in on an international level. But it is something, as Martin Luther King said, we must go back to work on it and don't sit aside and see such things take place without the consent of the people of this little island. Some have said that a referendum or polls that's been taken is not worthy to be considered, and a referendum always reflects voting along political lines. But I am not sure if you're in government and you won the last election, you shouldn't have that fear that voting be along political lines on a matter which you are selling to the public. And so we're back to work on it. I'm not sure if there's been talk about things being supposed to sign before Christmas. I am not sure, but to me sufficient have come forward from the Bar Association, from civil society, and especially one in particular, lawyers in Sinkit, which to me point out a very important point when he says that we are in effect through the legislation giving the investors the right to make laws. And I read law, and I know legislative proposals come from, it's the duty of the parliament and parliamentarians. I am not saying the public does not influence policies that can become law. But when their bylaws in the libertarian city can become law, can become part of the volumes of our laws, that can be a very, very scary thing. Very scary thing. And I must agree with that particular interpretation of the legislation. Who make laws? And where does legislative proposals come from? That's the duty of Parliament. Not investors. I'll yield the mic for
now. No law, nothing can become law in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis unless it goes through Parliament. That's the first caveat. Right? You spoke about the legislation has facilitated this libertarian city. There is nowhere in the legislation that speak to the word libertarian city. The legislation provides the framework for any developer to create a zone of this nature, with certain stipulations and so on.
Well, that's what's being said all the time. And
Let me finish. I did not interrupt you, so
Yeah.
allow me to speak. I want to ask you, however, one question. You indicated that the legislation came before the
immediately before the proposal for
the
for
proposal.
listing. Yeah, immediately.
Is it that you are saying then that you would have felt better if the development proposal would have come before and ventilated in the public before the actual legislation?
Well, nothing would have been wrong with that at all. Nothing would have been wrong with that at all.
Nothing would have been wrong with it.
No.
So-
no, that would be transparency.
So then why would you bring a proposal before a legislation and the legislation would not be in place to give guidance for any proposal? Explain that to me.
Well, you know, this legislation isn't your thing. There have been many proposals without this legislation, you know, and so I don't know what needs to be explained. You know, a proposal for a business for development, that can, you can have that without the legislation. And a lot of people question why the legislation, but the legislation seems to give, in this particular case, the investor overriding power that can, in effect, create a city within a city. That's what the legislation does. That's what the legislation does.
I disagree,
The
but
legislation does exactly that. You know, their bylaws become laws. You know, the idea of their own dispute dispute resolution system. I mean, all these things seems to give the investor a power that wasn't given before to any investor to affect even the Constitution.
how does their bylaws become law?
The bylaws become law after the island administration ratified the bylaws and the federal administration ratified. And if I want investment, then that means the ratification gonna be
I am happy that you say-
conducive. No, the ratification is gonna be conducive to having the development, because the island administration is selling the development to the people of Nevis, and that's also a concern. There's nobody speaking on behalf of Nevis. Well, the civil society and the Bar Association and all these people, yes. But the island administration is selling this development to the people. They're the same one who is ratifying the bylaws of these people, and then pass on to the federal for further ratification. And so, where are the stopping points in this, really? To me, you give them a clear path towards making their bylaws a part of the volume of laws.
I don't know if I could maybe jump in here, but I know some time ago, and Mr. Brand would have said it earlier tonight, that one of the set of meetings, was with the opposition on Island, and I want to believe that the project would have been explained to members of the opposition that were present at the time. And I also want to believe that the opposition was given an opportunity to ask questions and to lay the concerns or fears, on the table. And I am not sure if they did any of that, and if they didn't do any of that, then the question is why. The question would beg, when they were in the room, didn't they recognize, or did they recognize after they come out the room? Because I want to believe
Recognize what?
whatever fears are concerned, there might be. Because I want to believe that the government would have recognized, hey, this project is of such a magnitude that, hey, we do not know all the answers. Hence, we want you to be on board. Of course, the opposition, they represent persons. They would have been elected, so persons voted for them, and they must have a voice. They must represent, or they should represent. And they had a golden opportunity, I believe. Now, I am not saying that this came out and this didn't come out in the room. I wasn't there. But what I'm saying, they had a golden opportunity. It's very seldom that we see in the Caribbean region, certainly in St. Kitts Nevis, that the opposition would be invited to a forum such as the one that they were invited to. So I am saying, hey, if I'm invited to a particular meeting and I have concerns, fears, or whatever have you, I am going to let them out. I am going to speak to them. I am going to be as forceful as I can. Of course, being respectful. Because we all have a duty, we all have a role to play. Now, the government would have went further by inviting, different segments of our community, the church, the youngsters, the trucking, heavy equipment, and of course the general public to a town hall meeting. Now, the question would always be, to me, in my mind, because the government, they are hearing you, they are hearing me, they are hearing all of us who are speaking. Now, the thing is, you, as a government, in my opinion, you have an obligation to listen to the people. Now, having listened to the people, you still have to filter, because it's not every opinion that is voiced you will be able to take on board. So you must be in a position, to filter, and filter, not just filter any and anyhow, but you must filter in a way that will benefit your people, in my humble opinion. I just want to probably bring this to the fore, and you would probably ask why. And I would just bring it to the fore, you might recognize. I went to a particular church sometime, and the pastor asked what I thought was a very simple question. And the pastor called a number of different persons to come up and ask, well, what is your opinion? And the first person came, they said what they said. The second person came and they said, I am in agreement. The third, the fourth, the fifth person came, they said I'm in agreement. And I was like, no, these people have to be crazy. But I'm just saying this to say, because sometimes we are afraid to speak, and sometimes, whether right or wrong, we decide to run with those who would have spoke first, and probably those who are speaking the loudest.
Yeah, well, I think this thing has made good conversation. To be honest, it's a blurred, really, the political lines. I don't see much of a CCM or NRP or in this matter. It's the public,
right? And
in a conversation, because to me, it's the political lines have been blurred on this particular topic. To be quite honest with you, I'm not saying that there wouldn't be such things, but I think unlike many issues, I think there's a bit of a blur on this one.
If I may just jump back in here, right? And that is exactly why sometimes we do not give credit where credit is due. Another leader at another point in time may not have ever invited the opposition. And you said it from your lips. The political lines basically would have been drawn. So you want feedback from all and sundry. And you cannot say that that wasn't at least put out there for feedback from all and sundry, from whether you are a construction worker, whether you just up in jacket and tie, or you clean the street. You had an opportunity. We had an opportunity to speak.
Sometimes when things are about to be done, you say, look, we're going to do this. Instead of after, when it's been done, you say, we have done this. So where does transparency carry its greatest weight?
So Naya, that is the only issue you're having with this matter?
With which matter?
The steps and the procedures of which came first, the legislation or the project or the legislation?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. I find this whole thing has been really confused, really obfuscated from the public point of view. From the public point of view, people are quite confused because what we're hearing that the politicians and the investors them read from two different books. I'm not sure that the politicians are very happy with the CEO, because he have said things I believe he shouldn't have said, and have made your work, the work of the politicians, a little more difficult in terms of selling the project. I don't think a CEO who are trying to make an investment in a country would have said that he disliked politicians and he don't trust them. Boy, that ain't sound too good. You guys didn't tell him that? I believe that certain things that has been, you guys are not reading from the same hymn sheet, really. And trust me, the threat of a city in a city is profound. Trust me, I read constitutional law too. The threat of a city in a city is very profound. I mean, you guys can say, oh, well, we're going to abide by the same constitution. And the threat of their own dispute resolution. No one can tell me the extent to which these things would go, really. And well, to be quite honest with you, no disrespect, and they shouldn't feel bad about it. The legislation need to be modified. The legislation need to be modified. No doubt about it. And I believe...
In what areas?
In what areas?
You studied law.
What would you change in the legislation?
Huh?
What would you change? What are your recommendations?
The recommendations for the legislation? Yeah. The legislation need to be modified in areas of the concept of dispute resolution, in the idea of their bylaws becoming laws, meaning legislative proposal shouldn't be coming from them in nowhere at all. The legislation needs to probably be more specific, in a lot of areas, to me. And no one want to swallow their pride.
Give me a real hardcore example. I think you are generalizing. Give me. You are saying that.
I don't think I'm generalizing too much. In the area of the dispute resolution, that need to be looked at in the legislation. Okay, in the area of their bylaws becoming laws, then that need to be looked at.
But then
those two areas in particular, and to me, there's a lot of what we can refer to as slackness in the legislation. So I give you two specific areas. And in general, the legislation, I believe, can be tightened in many ways.
Can I?
To me, the legislation that was written by them white man, you know.
Let me ask you a question.
Honestly, because it doesn't seem to reflect. You seems to be willing to have these people enjoying a kind of a special circumstance. Why you need a new law for them? One to the existing laws that's been there all the time. So one lawyer, Mr. Hamilton, make a serious reference because he said that Nevis is already a zone because Nevis Nevis have a government within a government. Nevis enjoy very special circumstances within a government, and those are the special circumstances we are talking about. These investors enjoying, you know, in the federation, these special privileges. You know, I mean, as I said, one lawyer said Nevis is a zone by himself because even within the federation, we got special laws governing Nevis, and the island administration, you know, they can basically do anything they want over here.
The island administration
can do anything they want over here, even if the Prime Minister of Sinkis refused to sign the economic agreement or the development agreement, the island administration can override that.
How?
Because the Constitution gives you that right. The Constitution gives you that right. The legislation cannot erase the Constitution. So this new legislation that says that the Prime Minister must sign off on this development agreement in order for such things to take place in Nevis. If he wishes to sign, the island administration said, "Don't study. We have a right to do what we want with our lands because that's what the Constitution says."
Naya,
it goes beyond lands.
let me ask you a question.
You know,
who have control over foreign affairs in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Foreign affairs.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister.
Me not hear you. Talk a little hard.
The Foreign Minister.
Open your mouth. Talk a little hard.
Is it the Foreign Minister, sir? Is it the Foreign Minister?
Let me ask the question differently.
Nevis have foreign affairs too, you know.
Let me ask the question.
Let me ask
the question differently.
Well, who is the island administration foreign minister?
Let me ask the question differently. Where does the seat for foreign affairs of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis lies? Where does that sit in the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Where does it sit?
Yeah.
If I say St. Kitts, would I be answering that question? Okay, you're asking me who is the federal
level.
On a federal level.
Where does foreign affairs take the personality out of it?
Okay.
In the Constitution, where does that right and sit?
On a federal level.
Me can't hear you. Talk a little.
On a federal level, sir.
Okay. Where does national security, when it comes to St. Kitts and Nevis, the seat of...
on a federal level.
So it goes beyond lands. Naya, one thing I wanted to ask you, Naya. Okay, you said that the developers, and let me just paraphrase it, is singing out of another hymn book than the NIA. And if the NIA is looking out for the best interests of Nevis, and they are singing out of another hymn book, don't you think the hymn book that they're singing out of is for the benefit of Nevis? Because if the developers, remember, developers would come from time to time, and they may want whatever they desire, but now is the government now to say, well, hey, you have to pull back, you have to rein in and follow a particular channel. So I would say, at this stage, if the government is singing from another hymn book, it should be beneficial to us.
Well,
Now, after all the T's would have been crossed and the I's would have been dot, then is when, if after that they are singing from another hymn book other than one, then there would be a problem, in my opinion.
I want to pick up on something that Roger said earlier, and I wrote it down: listen and filter. And Roger also spoke about the various stakeholders who we would have met with, and he would have pointed out the meeting with the members of the opposition. Not that I am disclosing what was said or in cabinet, because it was a cabinet setting. Outside of that cabinet setting, both members of the opposition would have been on radio. They would have voiced their concerns. They would have said a lot. I believe that both would have done articles on various social media voicing their concerns, and that is all well and good, because it allows them the platform to voice their concern outside of that meeting that we would have had, separate and apart from that, to the public, and to speaking to the to the general public. Now, Roger made an interesting point, and I kind of like the language, listen and filter. And I am saying to you, Naya, and to the people of Nevis, and to all those who are minded to listen, we have been listening.
I believe.
And we have been filtering.
I believe.
We have been dissecting. We have been analyzing. We have been doing all of that.
I believe that.
And this is not something, Naya, and that you said that we would have liked to sign the agreement before Christmas.
No, I didn't say. I heard that there was that thinking that the agreement would be signed.
Well,
maybe something coming from the investors.
Well, I'll use your language. That
okay.
Thinking. This government is filtering and listening and making sure that when we get to that point, that we would have given the consideration to all that has been said, all that has been written, and give consideration and credence to try and get to a point where
it's all the best for the island.
Precisely. And I think that that is our ultimate aim and our ultimate goal, to make sure that when we get to that point, that it can be something that I feel that I don't believe that everybody is going to accept it 100%. We are not living in a society and in a world where if you wake up tomorrow morning and everybody accept everything you said, then I think you have a problem, right? Yeah. You have a problem, Naya. There are things that is happening that ought not to be happening. If you wake up in the morning and we expect that it would be something that could be accepting all of the things that have been said, the things that have been filtered out, the things that have been changed, the things that have been modified to make whatever we have better.
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Mr. Fifield listened to the premier New Year's Day speech.
I can't recall that I listened.
Well, you should listen to the New Year's Day speech of the premier, and then you would understand what Naya is saying.
So if I didn't listen, I would not understand what Naya is saying. Is it that you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. Got you.
So you should listen to the premier's New Year's Day speech, then you'll understand what Naya is saying.
I got you, Carla.
Yeah, have a good evening.
You too, Carla.
Well, the truth is, I didn't listen to the premier New Year's Day speech, so I'm not sure if I can be filled in.
So, Granny,
according to what the caller have said.
I listen, but I'm trying to wrap my mind as to exactly the point that the caller was trying to bring out.
No, Mr. Banner, I do believe that the island administration is taking on board a lot of the concerns. But there's quite a lot of conversation about this, and it's coming from people who probably not playing the political card, not playing any, and some are playing the political card as well, right? The truth is, there's no doubt that we want to see some economic activity on island. They say some polls being taken, but to me, if you can't sign to the polls, and I don't know, I'm not a guy who will follow through on those things in any serious way. But I think sufficient has been said and sufficient eyebrows has been raised for the island administration to really sit back and question themselves again and again and again. I'm not saying they're not going to get it right. But I think some washing and cleaning and drying will have to be done, because I think some spillage have taken place, on some people's garments, and it can be cleaned up, and Nevis get something that I think is deserving for the island.
Okay, let me just take this. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Naya, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
I heard you just mention that there's a poll, that you heard a poll is being done. Correct?
Yes.
The challenge that I have with polls is understanding the polls. For example, all of the political polls that have been ever done in St. Nevis, I don't know if you guys got lucky, but I was never interviewed, I was never sampled once. And in all of my 29 years of age, all of the persons who have asked, I've never met one person.
What is it, 29 years of age?
27, but I just wanted to get your attention. So my question is, who is conducting the poll? What is the methodology being used? How are they collecting the data? Where are they collecting the data from? Those are the questions I have if you're au fait with those sort of things, because for any entity to come out in 3, 4, 5 weeks, whatever, and say these are the findings, they're not going to be very reliable, valid, hence not credible. So based on those questions, kindly advise me, please, Naya. You seem to have your ears and your fingers to the ground.
Well, obviously, my ears and my fingers are not far enough to the ground, because, as I said, that I am not one who follow through on polls, because the first thing I ask, who does these polls? Who sign off on these? So I cannot give you the information you're asking for, and that's why I say I am not one who will be driven by the findings of polls.
Now, let me ask you one question. You said that this thing have to be washed and dry and washed and dry again.
More than once?
Well,
good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah. My question is for Mr. Brand.
Yes.
Mr. Brand, do you know that the libertarian movement is a political movement globally? And they actually have a political party in England. So when they come here, they're not only coming here as investors, they are political government in themselves, buying their way as investors into our constitutional structure. And the idea of a special zone to accommodate a foreign political organization, it has serious implications for thinkers and neighbors. I'll stop there.
Caller, let me say this, that nothing has been put before us requesting to be a libertarian entity, and I am aware of the preference of some individuals and how they think in terms of their libertarian standing and position, but nothing has been put before us in terms of requesting to be a libertarian state and entity. Naya, let me ask you a question.
Mr. Brand, before you
you
go on to Naya, and that last statement that you just made, nothing has been put before you suggesting that.
Requesting
that.
Yes.
So, therefore what?
Therefore that nothing is before the government for the developers, investors. That is before the government requesting a libertarian state.
Naya, go ahead with Naya.
Naya, you said that this thing have to be washed and double washed and so on and so forth 2 and 3 times, right? What would be your recommendation? Give me 2 recommendations going forward to as you put it, washed and rewashed this document.
Oh, it's just language, I suppose. I mean, going over it and basically clean it up, because I believe you would agree that there are areas that can be more specific and more easily digestible in a positive way by the people. As you would imagine, this great upheaval of commentary and conversation has to be built upon something. It does not happen simply because here is Nevis is going to have some investors spending some money. There's obviously you know, something underneath that causing that volcanic eruption. And as you have just said, that nothing has come before the government to mention anything about libertarian city. But I mean, you is a guy who reads, and you know the quest to find such a place continues, and as it's been written globally, that place has been found, which is Nevis with a sibling island called St. Kitts.
Can I chime in here? Now, you know, this thing I've been bantering about, you know, from basically the onset, about libertarians coming here. Now, also, a number of persons, you know, the number of persons coming in would have been bantered about too. But my question is, how do we know that X amount of libertarian would be coming and X amount would be non-libertarian?
Look, brethren, let us don't...
So are we saying all of the persons who will be coming will be libertarians?
No.
I'm just asking.
No, you know what? I believe that part about the libertarian thing is a foregone conclusion. You know, the people seek to set up, as they have done, they have attempted to do in other places, and it's exactly that. The guy tell you limited government intervention. Does not trust the political order. They'll be having, you know, they don't pay tax, which is there. I mean, this is what we're playing with, and that is to be internationally is what really creating a lot of concern, because as I say, it was simply theory. It was a distant thunder.
And
this is the closest it has come to reality.
So can I?
The closest it has come to reality is what we are dealing with now, and the island have passed legislation to facilitate that. That is a big thing.
To facilitate a libertarian city?
To facilitate the ideology of the CEO here, William Johnson, and like folks. You don't know.
No, let's be clear here. The legislation have been passed to facilitate a libertarian city.
To facilitate a special sustainable zone, which
but that is what the legislation. That is what the legislation is, to create a special.
Yes. But the proposal that is made is to create a libertarian city.
I want to try.
I don't try to separate the legislation from the proposal, because I keep asking the question: what prompt what? Does the legislation prompt the proposal for the investment, or the investment prompt? Because they were so close behind each other that they must link. They are linked, and people are not silly. You know what I mean? You cannot discuss one without discussing the other. Okay, and that's logic. You understand? You cannot discuss one unless you discuss the other.
I'm hearing you, but can I just get an opportunity?
Yes,
thank you.
sorry about that.
Now, a caller to this program tonight would have said that the libertarians is a political
movement. Yeah.
Right, fine. So help me here. So political movement, political parties are formed with a view to go into government. Am I correct? Am I correct, yes or no?
No. Well, it's a political ideology. Ideology. I'm not talking for political party or political. It's a political ideology. In fact, they boast to be more democratic than our democracy and the democracy that America practice, because they have emphasis, special emphasis on individual rights. Individual rights. Is there anything that an individual can do that does not affect the rights of another?
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And Happy New Year to you and your panel.
Happy New Year, mate.
Good evening.
I tried to turn down this radio here.
Yeah, okay.
Now I want to ask a question. Have they proposed investors know and understand that whatever they have on their mind must conform to the law itself?
To the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis, yes.
Hello?
Yes, to the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Have they been informed that they might know directly? Then again, we have had consultations. Have they been informed of the people's attitude or whatever towards it?
If they've been informed?
Yeah, they should be informed.
They've been hearing it just like you and I have been hearing it.
I talk about direct. I am saying this, those who are making the proposal, they should know and understand that whatever they had in mind must conform to our law. That's number one.
Yes.
We have had a number of consultations by prominent groups, and you could give an outline. This is what they said. People are afraid of you creating a state within a state, which would lead to open discrimination against our people, and different things that people have in mind. They should be informed of that. They don't have to listen to it. There should be a direct information system, a flow of information, so that they're not taken by surprise. They might expect the leader of the country to conform to their wishes, which may in fact be against the wishes of the people, which would make it uncomfortable for what they propose. So I suppose, and I would recommend that they be informed.
Caller, could you pause there? I think that's a very important question. Mr. Brand, the question is, have they been informed of, work with me, of they are the thing that the caller is outlining.
Webbo, I would say yes, and I will explain why I am saying yes. I know that in the various conversations back and forth with legal and their legal team and all of the players, a lot of these discussions and conversation have been communicated to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caller, go ahead.
So what has been their reaction? Because in fact there has been a negative reaction.
Some of the things that they have been asking for, they have sought to amend them.
So when we receive the proposed amendments and the bill, so that we know upfront, because we're not politicians, there's pressure.
When I believe that we would get to that point when I think that both sides are at a comfort level with what both sides are asking for.
I don't think so. I'll tell you something. We don't have much choice in what you say. They must make the proposal clear. This is what we want. This is what we intend to do. And then in the matter of state within a state and all of that, they must address it directly, not reaching in. We already said what we want by the bill. And the bill either stand or fall.
Yes, but caller, I hear you, but in the bill, if there is something that is in the proposal that is contrary
to what they want,
or that does not sit well in the best interest of Nevis, that does not mean we have to agree with it, and we can't agree with it.
But does that mean that you would reject the offer?
Well, if it comes down to rejecting the whole offer, then so be it.
Yeah, but you don't think it's time enough now that people know what they propose? Because they've been saying it and hinting it. And it was now since Donald Trump went into Venezuela. The land that they bought is theirs, The land that they're purchasing is in there. And they would say that they have a right to use their land as their best see fit. Have you thought about that?
Yes, I hear you, caller.
All right then, mister.
Okay.
All right.
Hello, what do you say?
Thank you. So that was the last word. Who have the final word?
Well, the conversation and the dialogue continues, and I believe that tonight, as the first edition of this program for 2026, I have no doubt that this conversation will continue.
And I hope so too, because I'm still standing by for that interview. So with the destiny, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So all who have leverage or connection or power, please help us.
Ready to save while you build? Now you can at Builders Paradise. Yes, shoppers, build up your Value Club points at Builders Paradise. That's right, Value Club members and shoppers, your favorite frequent buyer club is now available at the home of hardware and more. Whether you're laying tiles, painting walls, replacing doors, upgrading windows, or fixing up your home, every purchase at Builders Paradise now earns you Value Club points. Enjoy exclusive benefits like discounts on thousands of items, special savings for seniors, instant deals, quarterly rebates, plus an extra up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, and more only at Builders Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builders Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to